leadership evolves. Maybe the words that you just put in there, as I mentioned, the qualifier is today, but maybe a year from now or 2 years from now, leadership is an evolution. You will continue to grow as I learn myself that I'm continually learning to grow and evolving as a leader. And the way we do that, I often go back to pathways in Toastmasters as I completed my leadership style assessment. And this is all as a reminder within Toastmasters that there are 8 different leadership styles. One from democratic, where we have to have the decision making or consensus. Altruistic is all about other people. And there's the word there, coaching. It's about how can we empower others. And then affiliative, it's about harmony, pace setting, it's about having a routine. And as you can see the rest, authoritative, innovative, and bureaucratic. All of these leadership styles have a purpose. But for the rest of the remainder of our session this afternoon, I really want to focus on coaching. Because sometimes people think, oh, coach, I can't be a coach. Well, everybody can be a coach. Yes, there is a professional services, right? Coaching itself is a job for a lot of people. There are coaching firms. There are coaches around the world, life coach, executive coach, and whatnot. But there are certain skills that even though you're not a coach in that capacity, that you can do. Hence, leader as a coach. Because in reality, coaching is about this. When you coach as a leader, which is a mindset, you don't need to be the expert. You don't need to be the smartest or most experienced person in the room. And you don't need to have all the solutions. But if you hone in into this last statement, but you do need to be able to connect with people, to inspire them to do their best, and to help them search inside and discover their own answers. I want to pause here and invite a few comments to the chat. What words or phrases or anything out of this quote that resonate with you? And if I can invite our partner here in crime this afternoon to read a few of those as they come in.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to admit 2 quick people into it, but here we go. Don't need to be an expert.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, and how about you don't need to know everything?
Yeah, right? And how hard is that? Sometimes, yes, we know that, but it's hard, right? When we are faced with somebody, oftentimes we jump into, yep, I have an answer for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that in mind, thank you, Maxine. So let's jump in. What are the 4 qualities or behaviors that could serve you and I when it comes to being leader as a coach? There are 4 of them in my lens. One is to be humble and brave. The second is to stay curious a little bit longer, and we're going to unpack that in a minute. Listen with empathy and be mindfully present. So let's start with the first one. Be humble and brave. Real quick again in the chat and with my partner here, why is it hard? What comes to mind when somebody, a leader is humble? What is the notion or connotation when someone is humble? What's the perception even that, oh, you're a humble leader?
Hi, we've got weak, forgiving, and let's not forget giving credit to others.
Thank you. Thank you, Maxine. Yeah, gives credit to others. Absolutely. That is something in its essence. But oftentimes too, the first word that somebody mentioned, weak, that is the perception. Yeah. Right? That, oh, you're humble, so that means you're weak at the same time.
Oh, we got one more comment.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's real.
Yeah, or are you faking it, right, in an essence, or is this just for a show, right? So with that in mind, a few reminders for us is that humility is about recognizing that we have imperfect knowledge about the world. And in today's environment, I'm not going to go there, but in today's environment, there's a lot of learned knowledge, but there are also things that we're figuring out that we have to unlearn. Humility also requires you to listen and acknowledge that you don't know everything. How about this one? Humility is the willingness and ability to unlearn things. And I want to be intentional with the next phrase here, brave enough to create a space. You are creating a space for something different. We're not saying that what you've learned was wrong. What we're saying here is how can you allow to create a new perspective into your lens as a leader? So I like to buy books, not, and there's my disclaimer, buy. Oftentimes I don't finish all of them, but there's one in particular that I'm starting to really like. And if you don't know him, Adam Grant is a psychologist. And his book on Think Again, explore the concept of what we call confident humility. And if you were able, again, to download the handout, there's the definition here. But in reality, it's just a quick context. When it comes to confident humility, it's two framework. One is belief in yourself, which is on the left-hand side. And then at the very top, you see belief in your tools. Tools meaning to say your resources, the strategies, the actions that you can do. Sometimes you can be secure about yourself, as you look at the diagram here, and also certain with the knowledge that you have. And when you are in that space, it could be a danger where you could be blindly arrogant. That I'm too confident, I believe in myself, and I'm also certain and hardwired and rock solid, if you will, with my perspective and mindset that nobody's willing to change or nobody can change that. On the other hand, some people may be insecure about themselves, but at the same time, they're certain about those tools. And when that happens, it could lead to obsessive inferiority. But if you look on the other end, right, sometimes I don't believe, I doubt myself a lot. I don't think I can do this. And at the same time, I don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk. I don't know the resources that I can bring in. Imagine that as a new team member or as a new Toastmaster coming into a club. I'm insecure about my abilities to speak, and I'm so overwhelmed with everything going on as a new club member with pathways, the meeting roles, that it may lead to somebody to really doubt themselves. What we're really looking for is to have the sweet spot, as Adam calls it, which is you are secure about yourself, right? You're confident, and you're also at the same time giving the idea that you could be uncertain. There are strategies that you may not, they may not be right at the same time. That there might be strategies and tools that they may not be appropriate in the context that you're using them. So hence, confident humility. And as we wrap up this particular section of being brave and humble, I want to show a video by the one and only Nelson Mandela, and I trust he will summarize a little bit about what we mean by humility.
Well, I had said that you're one of the most humble person I'd ever met. I will tell you that when Mr. Mandela arrived today, he said that our producer met with him in the room, and he said, "What is the subject of today's show?" And they said, and she said, "Nelson Mandela, you are the subject of today's show." He goes, "Oh, all right." So you are not modest, but a very humble man. I wanted to ask, because I think that is the characteristic that stands out for you above all of them, that you are a peacemaker inside yourself. And how do we begin, those of us who aren't leading countries but are just leading our own lives, leading our families, come to a sense of truth and reconciliation with ourselves to be a peacemaker? How do you do that?
The first thing is to be honest with yourself. You can never have an impact on society if you have not changed yourself. And one of the most important weapons in changing yourself is to recognize That peace, people everywhere in the world want peace. But humility is one of the most important qualities which you must have. Because if you are humble, if you make people realize that you are no threat to them, then people will embrace you. They will listen to you.
So with that, if you have any thoughts or comments about that video, I also invite you to just put them in the chat. And Maxine, if you have, if there are anything that's come up and jump at you, I'll appreciate that too, about Nelson Mandela and his perspective on humility.
No comments yet, but I will remind everybody your handout is in the chat so they can download it.
All right, thank you, Maxine.
Mhm.
Yeah, so again, Nelson Mandela, humility. What the one thing for today is, how can you and I embrace humility, not disregarding the fact that you need to be courageous and knowledgeable, but also it's something that you and I can embrace.
Okay. We do have a comment. Humility equals success.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. So the second piece when it comes to being leader as a coach is this concept of staying curious a little bit longer. So for this one, I know you keep hearing myself and Maxine, but for this one, I'm just going to change it a little bit. If there's one person in the room who can, you can unmute yourself. But really the question is, when someone comes to you, right? Hey, X, Y, and Z, right? I have a problem. This is what's going on. What might be your natural reaction when somebody comes to you with a concern or with a problem? Who's willing, a brave soul, to just speak up and share what just initial reaction when that happens to you?
Ryan, I'll share.
Yes, thanks.
I think when someone comes to me with a problem, whether it's a family member, a coworker, an employee, or a Toastmaster, I ask myself, is this person coming to me just to share and want me to listen? So I give them that space and say, hey, Ryan, I understand you're having this problem. Do you want to carve out some time later on today or this evening, especially if I'm at work, so it might be a little awkward, to discuss what's going on, or is this something immediate? And if so, let me close my door so we can chat, or let me stop what I'm doing now, whether I'm cooking or cleaning or whatever I'm doing at home, so I can give you my attention, and then see where the problem is going and see what they want. Do they just want you to listen?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they actually asking for advice?
Yes. Thank you, Ramona. I think you are a leader as a coach, Ramona, and probably majority of you or all of us in this room right now, right? So I love that answer. And others who may be in terms of the evolution of being a leader as a coach, they may just, oh yeah, so what can I do for you? Right? Or, oh, I've experienced that same thing and here's what you can do about it. Right? But what I appreciated about what you said, Ramona, is you're giving them the space and you're even asking them a question, right? Do you need me to help you? Or do you just need me to listen for now, right? And that's a big piece about staying curious a little bit longer, is this idea of inquiry. I'm not suggesting that you don't need to give advice. That's not what Ryan is saying here. What I'm saying is, how can you delay that piece of advice and really have an understanding what's going on first? Because there's so much power in the questions that we ask. As I mentioned, my background is in psychology, so I love talking about that. But in terms of this piece, there is this theory around inquiry where it suggests that change begins to occur the moment we ask a question. Think about that, right? The way we look at our behaviors will be determined by the type of questions we ask ourselves. If we ask ourselves that, in terms of my worries, probably my behavior will be toward the worrisome stuff. But if I change the questions to what can I do about it and more future oriented or solution oriented, then maybe my behaviors will also be, what can I do now, right? What am I empowered to do? which also leads to this idea that questions lead and open up to something. And I love this one, that questions point us towards to a possible future. So another resource for you, and I love this guy right here. If you haven't met him or seen his work, Michael Bungay Stanier is the #1 coach last year, or I think back in 2019. And he talks about coaching habits. If you look at these 5 questions right here, all right, if somebody comes to you, a Toastmaster, a family member, or even a direct report, if you're a manager who leads or who have formal direct reports, by simply asking what's on your mind, you're not suggesting there's something wrong, but simply what's on your mind. It opens up the curiosity. It opens up the conversation. Now, probably some of you will say, well, Ryan, what if they talk about a lot of stuff? I don't know how to handle that, which leads to the second question. And what else? Because now you're opening more. You're trying to be more curious. Because oftentimes the very first problem or concern that somebody brings to your attention is not the problem. There might be some other things, which leads to the third one, which is, what is the real challenge here? You're really now trying to focus the conversation. And this is number 4 and 5 to what Ramona mentioned. What do you want? And how can I help you? By simply asking, what do you want? Oh, I just want for you to listen. Or I want for you to direct me to a resource. Or I want for you to, help me with my pathways because I'm lost, right? So with that, these 5 questions are really starters when it comes to inquiry and staying curious a little bit longer. The other piece that I will mention is this notion of when we're having conversations. Just give a minute or two here to read some of these and imagine, are you, or how much are you doing this habits? How are you displaying them as a leader, as a Toastmaster, as a husband, wife, partner?
So Ryan, we have a couple of comments that I'll
Sure.
add. You want to do it now, or you want it when you give them a few minutes to read through it?
Yeah, you can answer. We can ask them now.
Okay.
Or read them. Yeah.
So so the comments are, how do you mansplain a solution for you? So that is the right word, right, Steve? Is that the right word? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, how do I mansplain the answer for you?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, want to make sure I had it right. And then inquiry leads to discovery. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. The discovery part there, I often remind like a treasure box, right? I open it, oh, there's something there. That's always a picture that I think when it comes to discovery. So thank you for those comments. Looking at these, right? These are some habits that you and I can try. Oftentimes what I'm guilty is the one in the yellow. Ask the question and get to the point. And what I mean by that guilty is that I'm not doing it because what I resort to oftentimes is that I build up the question. I frame the question, I make it, oh yeah, I know you're doing wonderful job, and I fluff it up in a way with the idea that, oh, maybe it will soften the question or maybe it will build rapport. But in reality, if you have a question that's clear in your mind, just simply ask it. You don't need to build it up and frame it to make it beautiful for the person. Or how about this one? The one in gray. Take a deep breath, right? And stay open and be quiet. Because sometimes when you ask a question, all of us, maybe it's just the innate and the uncomfortability with silence, with the awkward silence, is that I want to ask another question. What if you just pause? Just wait for a while, because if there's silence, that also means the other person is doing something on their end. The good practice for me for this one has been the 1 minute of silence in contest. Imagine that 1 minute, and that's a long time, right? I understand that's a long time, but we're only saying here a few seconds before you respond to something. All right. So that is coaching habits when it comes to how can you and I stay curious a little bit longer. The next one is listening, which leads to the previous one. If you notice it, one of the coaching habits is to acknowledge them, that you've listened and that you've heard the response. Listening here, there is a framework that I really like when it comes to levels of listening. Probably all of us have attended a listening session, a listening skill, where you have a conversation with somebody and what are you hearing and what not. But what I trust that I can offer, and this model offers a different perspective in this regard. Level one is simply listening to your inner voice. Listen to speak. So a few examples here. You're probably listening to me right now, right? I trust you're listening, right? But also in your mind, you may already have an option to, oh, how can I respond to Ryan? Well, of course, technology, it's not allowing you to have just a simultaneous conversation. But oftentimes when we're with somebody, we have the intent to speak. And when we do that, we're not focusing on the other person, but we're focusing on what's going on in my mind. Oh, did I have the same experience about the other person is saying, and all of that. All of us have to experience level one because we have to hear what's going on within ourselves. Level two, it's now focusing on the other person. You're intently focusing on the other person and listening to hear. You're hearing the words. You may have an idea about what's going on. You may understand a little bit of their voice, their tone, then their inflection, right? How many of you probably have a conversation with somebody and they may actually not agree with what you're saying, but probably they say it, oh, yeah, it's okay, right? And are you catching that? Those moments where by the sound, by the way you talk, I'm not 100% that you actually agree with what I'm saying. So now you're trying to understand what's going on the other person. Level three, it's about our environment. That's a little bit different. This is listen to understand. This is where, how can you use your intuition and just, test the waters, if you will. As an executive coach, when I'm coaching with somebody, I may say things that out of nowhere, not because I want to be right, but I want for the other person to really, is it resonating with that individual? A particular coaching conversation I had, we were talking about stress, about life, and with everything that's remote. And the person didn't even mention the word fear. It wasn't fear that we were talking about, but it was just the stress. And then I just trusted I trusted my intuition. And what I'm seeing and hearing here is that you're fearful of something. And you can see the face of that individual. Oh, no, I'm not fearful. And then the person paused. Oh, yeah, I'm fearful that I'm going to lose a loved one. So it's not stress about work, but it's the fear. And that's part of listening with empathy is how can you understand globally the environment? Even with Zoom, right? We have verbal, sometimes we can see the individuals, whether it's your facial expressions or what's going on behind you, right? Let's say I have my people here and I see Charles with a lot of books or bookshelf. That's a cue, right? If I'm having a conversation and I may use something from what I see, if it actually supports the conversation, right? Contextually, it looks like you like to read, Charles. So you're using that in terms of the conversation. And that's what brings empathy, understanding not just the words they say, not just the tone, but even what's invisible. And that takes practice. And some people will say, well, I don't really want to trust my intuition, right? We have different debates and paradigms around trusting your gut and trusting your intuition. In these instances of listening and coaching, I encourage you and challenge you. How can you trust your intuition a little bit more to really have a dialogue with somebody, right? So that's listening with empathy.
Ryan, we do have some comments. You want
Yes, thank you.
Oh, let me get back to my chat. Okay. Oops. I'm trying to admit people in chat at the same time. Okay, so as you continue to share this great information, comments are taking a moment also helps prevent answering the wrong question because you may unconsciously make some assumptions. And,
Yes.
and then you can tell by the facial expressions doing that listening if there is disagreement.
Yeah, the face, right? I like that. I have a colleague before where the person just rolls her eyes, right? And the first time I encountered this, as a youth part of the team member, oh my God, what did I say? What's going on, right? I myself have a preference. I don't like conflict, right? And then I started what's going on until I had a one-on-one, of course, in a private conversation. I noticed you rolled your eyes when I spoke and when I started talking. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And that, oh no, I don't mean anything. It's a habit. And this individual knows that. And now it's just a form of a joke, but also wanted to make sure it's about self-awareness. Right. So that's part. Self-awareness is another key thing. And probably most of us know leadership starts with self-awareness. So the last one for the time that we have here is what we call being mindfully present. I'm going to show a diagram. I think that's the next, an image. And maybe just one or two, if you can unmute, just where is your mind right now at this very second, May 1st to, I don't know what time is it, right? Where is your mind? Okay, you will have two options. Is your mind full or are you mindful? Or maybe you can just put them in the chat too. Where is your mind? And no worries, I won't take offense if your mind is full with all of the information that we have. Or are you mindful?
And you have a 5-minute warning, by the way.
Okay, thanks, Maxine. Okay. What do we see on the chat?
Oh, here we go. Mindful, and someone is in between.
Yeah, somewhere in between. Yeah, maybe, if I'm right now, I'm mindful because I'm only focused on the presentation. Maybe if I'm also starting to read the chat and trying to figure out my time, my mind is full with all the distractions, but I appreciate Maxine. Yeah. Probably Maxine is mindful. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, by far, you have mindful. Hands down, mindful, and of course, there's always someone in between.
Great, thank you. And these are a few questions when you are having a conversation with somebody, right? You want them to be at their very best. So I also want for us awareness that we need to show up in a way that we can bring our very best, because that's what we want for the other person on the other end. These are just a few questions. How are you showing up when you are with others? In this digital world, how are you doing that? I know there's a lot of conversation. What if I turn on my camera, off my camera? That doesn't mean I'm not listening. I've been working remote myself over a year now, right? That's always a question, but there's also about trust and how do you set up expectations with the people that you work with, or even your regular Toastmasters meetings. What's the expectation? Are you all on cameras, on and off, right? Or are you, periodically, or is it just make sure if you work 8 hours a day, and then you attend another meeting in the afternoon or at night? How about this one? What social connections, and there's that word, are you intentionally creating? And I think with the presentation we just heard in terms of communication, right? How do you communicate now? Through WhatsApp, through Zoom, through Facebook. Early on in the pandemic, we've had like birthday parties drive-through, right? Are we still doing those? Are we still reimagining what we mean by social connections? So the idea here and the intent is, is your mind full or are you mindful when it comes to having that conversation with somebody? So how is all this going to apply when it comes to Toastmasters? On your handout, that's really an application. I mentioned already, it starts with a question and an inquiry. So I started asking myself some questions. which I hope and trust it will guide you to change your behaviors. So how about being humble and brave? What do you need to let go in order to display humility as a Toastmaster? Personally, yes, I've been in Toastmasters for 10 years and I'm not the expert, right? Or, oh, I've done an icebreaker before. Why do I need to do an icebreaker again in my pathways? Right? How can you let go of that and really, what is something new that I'm going to learn? How about listening with empathy, right? What will you pay attention to the next time you listen to somebody delivering a speech, a table of topics, and an evaluation, or even simply being a timer as well? How about staying curious? If you are a club officer or even just a regular Toastmaster member as well, right? How do you incorporate curiosity? How can you start asking more questions with the people that you work with or meet with? And the last one is mindfully present. When you're in a meeting in Toastmasters, do you have your phones? Is your TV on? Or what else are you doing? Or maybe that meeting is not the right time for you to attend because you can focus. And that also takes humility and bravery to admit and communicate with the people that you're meeting with. That I'm not attending, not because I don't have time, but because I can't focus right now. And I trust that is an expectation for the people that you're with as well. So I've covered with a lot. We've covered a lot. So let me try to do this one more time. And I'm going to exit here.
All right.
So 4 main items around leader as a coach. So I invite you, you still have, hopefully if you logged out of menti.com, you can go back with your phones again. Please log on to www.menti.com and use that code. And then I'm just curious, out of these 4 items, what is one thing you would like to focus on over the next 7 days?
So Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, we had a number of people to join since you threw it out the first time. So maybe you want to kind of tell them what we're doing right now.
Yes, so thank you. So if you have your phones, you can just open any browser or your Safari and go to this website, www.menti.com. And then when you do that, it will actually ask you to put in a code. And the code is the number that you see on the screen, 78998686. And you will see this question right here.
Okay, looks like we're getting there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Huh.
And I'm a fan, even in my coaching conversations, is one thing, because we get so much information. But if there's one thing that you can focus or try to really hone in over the next 7 days, whether it's your Toastmaster meeting, your professional world, your friend, or with somebody, and it looks like, I know with the number of people that we have, be mindfully present as the number one right now. Yeah. And thank you, Maxine. I believe you put the handout as well.
I
Awesome.
did a couple of times. So hopefully everyone will have access to it. If not, just let me know and I'll drop it in there one more time.
Great. So with that, this just gives an idea of where is everybody this afternoon. And I want to end with this quote. And let me go back here. That leadership is not about a title or designation. It's about impact, influence, and inspiration. And as Toastmasters and as leaders and as coaches, you have a tremendous role to impact and influence people. So my call to action for you right here is an inquiry that I'm going to leave you. I don't need a response, no chat, just this is yours. What kind of impact do you want to have with the people around you? So with that, if there are any questions or comments, we would love to take them at this time. And I'll turn it back over to my partner in crime here, Maxine.
Okay, and you can stop sharing your screen. That would be wonderful so we can see these great faces. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for hopping in. As we wrap up the session, any quick questions before I kind of wrap it up and give you further instructions? Any comments? You've gotten some great comments in the chat, Ryan. So great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we can all say we learned quite a bit, except, well, especially when it comes to listening. I have to remember, coaches listen, don't talk. We need to listen better. So I definitely need to remember that. That's my takeaway. All right, so since we don't have any questions, we just want to thank you, Ryan, and someone from the district leadership will be in touch with you. We do have a gift certificate from Toastmasters store that will be coming your way. So someone will reach out to you to get your mailing address so that you can enjoy shopping online with Toastmasters International.
Awesome. Thank you.
Let's give Ryan an amazing hand for that wonderful, wonderful session.
Thank you all. And if you have any questions, I think my contact is on the handout as well, or you can always reach out to Maxine or myself.
Yeah, let me drop it in the handout one more time. I got another request, so let me drop it in there right quick. Send that file.
And my email is there too. All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, everybody, just remember you want to leave the room if you're ready to go back to the main room, and do not leave the meeting. So you want to leave the room. And thank you. But hang on if you're waiting on the file. Let me drop it right quick. All right. It should be there for everyone to see it. If not, hang on for a second, and then I'll send it back over to you if you can't. Other than that, thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. We enjoyed you, and especially with Ryan. Enjoy the rest of the session. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Maxine.
You're quite welcome.